Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Men's Physique Show. We are pumped up today because we have a man coming out of the United Kingdom, and I'm a little bit biased because we're about the same height. You know I love my tall, wide, structured guys. We have Men's Physique Olympian, peak week out of the Arnold, UK in the building. Tyler Smith, what is going on, brother?
Let's go.
How's it going, guys? You're good?
Oh, yeah.
We're so good. We're so good. Joining me today, I have a lean Bolton Men's Physique Pro, the Gaffa. What is going on?
Man, I'm feeling so good. Up early. We had to get on this call. I didn't care if this call was going to be at 3 o'clock in the morning my time. We were going to be on this call. So great.
He's awake.
On there.
He's awake. That's all that matters.
Yep.
Last but not least, the guy that came out of absolutely nowhere, who made me kind of scared for my job, started doing videos about men's physique. The Australian voice of men's physique, Philip Naselli. Brother, how are you?
Boys, what's happening? Tyler, man, it's a pleasure to meet you and talk to you face to face. I know one of the first ever reels that I did when I did start this whole men's physique journey was one of you just before one of your Thailand before the Thailand show, I should say, last year, man. So I'm looking forward to having a chat to you about all things bodybuilding, life, the works, man. Thanks for jumping on the call.
No, I appreciate it, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Boys, I'd love to start this thing off, and whoever wants to follow me, go ahead and do so. Tyler, I want to ask you, how are you feeling, man? We're 1 week outside of the Arnold Classic UK. You just told us you're about 30 minutes, so you kind of have that home field advantage from the show. How does your body feel right now compared to other shows?
Do you know what? This one's been kind of a strange one, to be honest, because last year was a long year. You know, I started prep for Thailand because Thailand was June last year. So I started prep in February, you know, so I had like a 14, 16 week prep going into that. And I actually had 3 shows planned out last year because I was going to do Thailand and then Italy. I think it was like 3 weeks later. And then 3 weeks after that, there was a British show as well. So I thought I'll have a good run of 3 shows, you know, see what we can do and then hopefully try and get to the O. Obviously, I did it in the first go of trying, you know, got the job done in Thailand. And I think, to be honest, it was probably my own fault from being super excited for qualifying for the O. I just wanted to get my head down and, you know, just get straight back into Olympia prep and everything else. By the time Olympia came, I was actually really tired because I think, you know, obviously because some of the videos that, you know, you've posted yourself or you've seen of me online before, I was ready like 6-7 weeks out. And trying to hold that for that length of time is just so difficult. So coming off the back of Olympia, I wanted to have some downtime. I wanted to, you know, take a break, let my body reset, everything else. And then like 6 weeks later, I got the Arnold invite. So it was like, in one hand, I was like, yes. On the other hand, I was like, damn. I was like, no, I'm not ready for this yet. So, I mean, I sort of took a step back, assessed it, spoke to my coach, and I was like, realistically, you know, how quickly do you think we could get ready? And he was like, I think we can do it in 8 weeks. So that's all we've done this prep. We've done 7 weeks so far. We've got a week to go. And to be honest, as the prep's gone on, I've actually felt better going into it rather than if I go back 7 weeks, I was still quite tired. You know, like I wasn't quite ready for another prep, but I sort of feel like, you know, coming into this one, I've sort of managed to freshen up as we've gone along because we've been able to push food higher and just bring cardio down.
I got to ask you, man. I mean, Arnold Classic in your backyard. I mean, I'm certain, or I'm sure you would have gone to one of the expos, you know, as you started your bodybuilding career, or maybe, you know, whilst you were a pro. How are you feeling jumping on that UK Arnold Classic stage in front of your home crowd? How's it feel?
I've got to be honest, I'm buzzing for this one because I've done home shows before, and like the support that you get, you know, from your home country is, you know, is great anyway. But I just feel like over the last few years, as my sort of visibility has grown a little bit more, you know, and people know who I am a little bit more, as opposed to say 3, 4, or even 5 years ago, where I was sort of like a newbie on the scene. It's because I actually did the Arnold Classic UK in 2021 when Ryan won it. And I just remember being backstage and hearing the crowd when Ryan walked out. Because obviously I was just a no one at the time, and I heard the crowd when he walked out, and I was just like, I looked at the other guys and I was like, why are we here? you know. So, don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing myself to Ryan whatsoever, but now that I've had sort of like a good, 5 years on the scene, I'm a little more well known. I am looking forward to walking out to that UK crowd.
Nice. Tyler, what was your experience and your journey like turning pro? I mean, it looked like you did a few NPC shows, amateur shows, and then you converted pro. How many amateur shows did you do, and what have you noticed has been the difference between your experience as an amateur and now as a pro, especially some years in?
It's just for a start, the difference between amateur and pro, because I turned pro in 2020, so 6 years ago, and I think things have actually changed on the amateur scene a lot in those 6 years. You've got a lot of guys now who are coming through the scenes who are adapting that pro lifestyle a lot more. Whereas when I was coming through, I started competing back in 2009. I originally started as an open heavyweight. So, but back then it was very much a mentality of, let's have 9 months off, pretty much doing what we want, and then we'll prep for 3 months and, we'll make a show. So going through the amateur ranks in men's physique, I was quite successful. I think it was like 9 or 10 shows, and I won all but one of them. I think the only one I didn't win, I did an amateur Olympia. I didn't win that one. So I was very successful as an amateur. I took my pro card, I think it was on the third time of trying. And I sort of shifted across from the amateur scene into the pro scene with that same amateur mentality. And I thought, because I'd been a very successful amateur, I was just going to step straight into the pro leagues, and with the same approach, the same everything, and I would just do really well. It does not work out that way. My first two shows, complete last call out. The last few guys standing there on the stage, and I'm sort of scratching my head, thinking, am I really cut out for this? Am I in the right place? And it was someone just sort of spoke to me at the time, and they said, what you've got to realize is that these guys, they live, they breathe, they are doing this 24/7. Everything is to the gram, to the rep. They don't miss a beat. And that was sort of like my light bulb moment, that sort of made me think, okay, if I'm going to be serious about this, then I've got to make it my entire life. It can't just be a hobby that I sort of pick up and put down whenever I feel like it. If you're going to be successful in this, you've got to be obsessed about it, and everything has got to be 110% all the time.
Yeah,
I love that.
If you're not all in, then it's going to show, right? It's going to reflect, because the guy who is all in has that 1% difference maker than you, and it shows on stage, right? So kudos to you, man. Yeah.
Thank you.
My turn, Phil. I'm sure. Hey, Tyler, I got a question, brother. I have 2 questions, actually. First one's a quick one. Second one's a little bit longer. How tall are you in inches?
Why are we talking inches? Can't we talk centimeters?
I don't understand centimeters, man.
So on my pro card, I'm officially listed as 6'2.5". So so that's like 189, I think, centimeters. So, but that half an inch is massive to me, because it gives me like an extra 3 kilos on the cap.
Yeah. So your weight cap is then what? 230 something, right?
239. 239.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I come in at 239.
That's crazy.
Damn.
That's crazy. So just to finish off with my second question regarding your height, do you think that, going through your amateur years, coming into the pro scene, coming into as a Olympian, is your height, is your structure, in your opinion, an advantage or a disadvantage when you stand up next to those other guys?
I think it can work in one of two ways. I think it can work as a disadvantage, because obviously being a bigger guy or a taller guy, we do have wider hips, and this is very much a small waist division, because they're looking for that V taper. So if if we have got wider hips, we've got to make the shoulders as wide as possible. So I think from an early age in this sport, you need to realize what your structure is. And if if you're honest with yourself, if you don't have that structure, then you're probably not going to be that successful. So the way that I looked at it was, because from years past, I'd come down from open bodybuilding, I still held quite a lot of mass. So I didn't really necessarily have to grow into the division that much. It was more a case of me about like reshaping and remodeling my physique in a way to keep the waist as tiny as possible, but then just work on those shoulder caps, play on the width and everything else. And I think that's when I'm on stage, being that taller guy, my aim is to try and take up as much space as possible. So if I'm stood next to someone who's like, 5'7", 5'8", or whatever, a smaller guy, I just want to look bigger and more imposing than he is, and just take up more space.
Yeah, I love that, man. I want to ask you, Tyler. I mean, you've mentioned that you started your career in open bodybuilding. Obviously, I don't know if men's physique was something that you were looking at doing first, and maybe you wanted to dip your toes into open to see how you went and to find your feet. But my question to you, man, is what got you into the sport? I mean, I know in the UK, football is probably one of the most popular sports in the country. What got you into bodybuilding?
Bodybuilding itself, I suppose I joined a gym for the same reason that everybody else does. I just wanted self-improvement. I just wanted a better physique. I was in my early 20s. I was going out, partying, doing all that sort of thing. And, we want to look better, don't we? So I wanted to look good in a tight t-shirt. So I joined the gym, and, I liked the effects that it had and everything else. And, looking in the mirror thinking, yeah, I'm getting bigger. I'm liking this. And it was actually a guy who trained in my gym at the time he did compete. And I mean, I had no idea what bodybuilding was or competing was or anything else. And he just said, you not got bad genetics. Have you ever thought about competing? And I was just like, no, what's that? So he was like, you come to a show sometime. And I was like, yeah, okay. So, and I think it was like 2008, I think it was. We went to the British finals over here in the UK, and I specifically remember a guy walking out, and he was in the beginners or the first timers, and it was Nathan Diasha. And I remember just seeing his physique and the way he came on stage, and I was like, yeah, I like this. I like what these guys do. And I was like, do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to give it a go. I was like, and I said to the guy next to me, I said, I said, next year I'll be there. I'll do that. And lo and behold, I did my first year as an amateur, qualified for the British finals, and I was on that stage a year later.
Wow, that's super impressive, dude. That's super impressive. It's wild how you start off, it's not even on your radar, and then someone else sees something that's really unique and special about your physique, and then they make the suggestion. And a lot of us have fallen into bodybuilding and the professional side, obviously, through that route, right? So it's super cool when you have people who are cheering for you from the outside looking in, and you're like, oh, I didn't even know I had this thing. Speaking of, one thing that I know fans want to know, especially being such a tall guy, and you were mentioning your waist, what are some of the techniques that you exercise in order to streamline that waistline? Because you keep your waist fairly tight for a guy who's 6'2". And I don't know what's your waist size, what's your waist right now, and what was it when you were open, and how did you bring it down and streamline that for men's physique?
So did you know what? I don't actually know what my waist is. I know that I wear like 32 inch shorts. But whether it is 32 or not, I don't know. I think some of the things that I do around year round and off season is I never eat to a point where I'm extending my stomach, where I'm bloating myself, things like this. So I'm very conscious about meal size, and also food choices as well, because we all have carbohydrates that don't suit us very well. For instance, like if I eat pasta, my stomach just blows straight out. It doesn't sit very well. So I'm always conscious about meal size and meal timings as well, so that we've got enough digestion time between each meal, so that then we're ready for the next one. But I also include core work year round as well. So I think they're probably the two big things that tries to, especially in men's physique as well, because it's such a focal point. When all the guys walk out, it's usually one of the first things that we tend to go to. It's straight to that core to see how tight it is, the makeup of people's abs and everything else. So I was aware of that, from a pretty early stage. So obviously over the years, it's always been in the back of my mind not to allow that waistline to blow out.
Well, that's awesome. When you, in terms of your meals, are you doing 5 meals, 6 meals a day? And are you spacing them like 2-3 hours apart? Or is that typically your route?
Yeah, so it's 6 meals and they will all be 3 hours apart. Yeah. Obviously, as prep ramps up, the digestion time is just so quick anyway. But even through what I would call an off season, even in an off season, I don't really allow myself to go too out of shape, because because I'm sort of fighting with that weight cap limit as well. There's no point me going up to. I could easily go up to like 260, 270 in the off season. But there's no point if I'm then battling to try to come down to 239. So, even through the off season, I'll probably only sit like 245, 248. So then obviously when prep time comes, it's a lot easier just to pull that back in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that makes complete sense. And I know you're working with one of the greatest coaches in the UK at the moment. I mean, we always talk about, the States, and they've got some really, really good coaches over there, but I feel like the UK is really closing that gap in comparison to the States, because, I know there's coaches over there like Joe Jeffrey, you've got Kuba, and I know you're working with Callum Raystrick. If you guys don't know him, he's one of the most knowledgeable coaches in the world. I've followed him for a while. I was actually coached by one of the pro coaches a couple of years back, and the work that these guys do and just how knowledgeable they are, how educated they are with new techniques and new styles of PEDs and nutrition in the works. I want to ask you, Tyler, how has it been working under Cal?
I've got to give credit to Cal. His work rate is absolutely relentless. Like you say, with him being one of the most knowledgeable coaches in the UK, I'd actually go as far as to say he's one of the most knowledgeable in the world. You've only got to look at the results that he's got from some of his clients, but especially people like Niall, how he's brought him through the classic ranks. But even with myself, it's like this prep was totally different to anyone we've done before. Myself and Cal have worked together for a good 4 years now. But we were even sat in a situation where it was about 2 weeks ago, I was actually 3 kilos under the cap. I'd crashed really quickly. I think because we'd done such a short prep, we dropped food quite low, and cardio was at a higher point than it normally was. And he just knew what to do straight away. And it gives that confidence in an athlete, to know that he's got the knowledge to turn it around. Straight away, reduced cardio. We've been up to around 3,500 calories a day for like the last 10 days. And we're basically just reversing and growing into this show now. What we would typically treat as a reverse stage after the show, we started it like 2 weeks out. So we've managed to revolumize back into the physique, fill it out, tying it up at the same time. And it's all those things that if I was with another coach, would they know what to do? If I was doing it myself, I would 100% would mess it up. I would not know what to do in that situation. So, having someone like him in the background who's just so knowledgeable and everything else, it's, it just pays dividends in your physique moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And it'll definitely keep you at ease. We know how stressful prep is, and obviously cortisol management is so important, especially this time of the time of the prep when you're kind of peaking and getting into the show. So to have someone as knowledgeable as him just having all eyes on you and managing everything to make sure that you do, come in the best that you possibly could is unbelievable, man. Really, really happy to hear that. Now, I want to ask you one thing in regards to the gym culture in the UK, because very similar to what I said about the US was always the powerhouse when it came to bodybuilding. Everyone had to go to the States, and the best athletes in the world came from the States. But I feel like the UK is closing that gap, because the culture there now is second to none. And I don't feel like the US is such a power. It is still the powerhouse, but I feel like the UK guys are coming in thick and fast, because the intensity, the work ethic that a lot of the guys coming out of the UK have is unbelievable to see. How do you feel like the gym culture's changed? First, I should ask you, has the gym culture changed since when you started heading into the gym till now? And if so, what are the main changes that you've seen?
Yeah, so firstly, I would say that the gym culture in the UK right now is massive, and it's massively competitive as well, both on a personal level in regards to training, but also on a business side as well. You're seeing all these super gyms pop up everywhere with the top equipment from all around the world and everything else, and it's super competitive over here. Compared to what it was like when, I first started training, 20 years ago, bodybuilding was still very much, it was almost like an underground, cult sort of thing where, it was just where the big guys went to train. You've all heard stories of like Temple Gym and Dorian and everything else. If you wanted to be a bodybuilder, you had to go to a gym like that. It was because we only had a choice between that and a leisure center. And leisure centers don't offer the same things that, like the gyms nowadays do. But I would say over certainly the last 5 years, there's been a massive shift in the way that I think the young generation look at training, because, it's not necessarily in the States, but you could probably relate in Australia. In Britain, we've always had a very heavy drinking culture, around alcohol, pubs, everything else. And when we were growing up, that was like the social thing for us to do. Whereas now I'm seeing a massive shift in kids don't want to do that now. Kids want to go to the gym and they want to get fit and, they want to put muscle on and have a six pack and everything else. So in terms of socializing, there's been a massive culture shift. And obviously that's contributed into seeing these gyms grow. A lot of gyms that you see over here, they're very, I like to call them Instagrammable, because people love to take pictures in the gym, and in where it's got nice lighting and backgrounds and everything else. And over the last few years, it's just spread, and it's just taken on. I mean, because I own a gym myself, that's what I do for a living. So seeing that, take off and spread like that, it's great. It's great for me, obviously business wise, but it's great for me to see that, bodybuilding and fitness just in general is so popular nowadays.
No, you go.
Tyler, speaking of Instagram, I kind of want to tap back into your physique, because when I first saw your physique, I was extremely impressed. Very, very, very impressed. I always feel like you're underrated in a way, because when I see you online, you look crazy, brother. And on Instagram, we have a lot of keyboard warriors. We got a lot of social media judges who think they know, what you need and what's going on and what needs to be brought up and all this stuff. I'm curious, man, when you get the feedback from these judges, what are they telling you need to improve on to, be the best in the world?
So all my pro career, my feedback was always the same. It was just more back, more width, more density, everything else. And, that was pretty much the feedback on every show. They said, from the front, they said, we've not really got, if they were going to critique me, it was minor things like, they maybe wanted me to open my shoulder a tiny bit more, but that was more of like posing issues. In terms of actually physique wise, going away and working on things, it was always just more back. And that's all I've done for the last, 4 years, really, 4 or 5 years. Is just every year we just focus on that, trying to bring the back up to match the front. And obviously I think last year I got to a point where, winning Thailand, we'd actually got to that point then where it was good enough to, award the win and finally make it to the O.
That's awesome, dude. When I see you pose, I mean, again, you have a very big stature. You 6'2", you guys, Aaron Banks, the Raymond Edmonds.
I got him right here. tagged me
Yeah,
earlier today.
There we go.
It's great.
I mean, that just looks nuts.
That's the famous door. I feel like you upload your check-in photos in that spot. I love that. I love that blue door.
Yeah, that's the
But
door.
where I was going with it-
I always do it outside the gym because it's. I always find that true daylight never lies.
Facts.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to get as much original light, real light as possible, natural light. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You know, we can all see these crazy shots in gyms with the nice lighting over us, creating all the shadows and everything else. But outside doesn't lie.
No, it doesn't. It lets you know exactly what you look like for real, as opposed to some of the Instagram posts that you see where the lighting is just perfect and, you know, catch me at this shot. Let's throw a filter in there. It's great to see that you keep it real. With your posing, let's kind of, I wanted to dissect your posing a little bit and discuss it, because again, you have one of these really pronounced physiques, and in comparison to a lot of the other guys that are out there, your physique naturally is going to stand out because you're able to stay bubbly as well. You don't see that. Sometimes you get one or the other, you get like this mass monster, but they don't have the pop. You have kind of the combination of both. You have the pop and you have the mass, coming from open, obviously, and having to streamline your physique into men's physique. When you go into your front pose, you have a very nice front pose. Do you, what's in terms of this, the dexterity to hide that waist, are you going to twist your waist more? And have you been practicing that more to hide the waist, or is that kind of like where you're at, and that's the amount of dexterity you have in your hips to be able to turn? What are you and your posing coach working on to change for the Arnold UK coming up in a week?
To be honest, it's something that I sort of adopted from a very early stage in my men's physique journey. So I'm sort of able to almost drop one hip, one side, which that just allows that slight little tilt where I can still stay pretty much front on, but the back side, so it would be the left hip that's not as close to the stage, I can just drop that down a little bit more, which then allows that twist in the waist to make it seem a little bit tighter, whilst trying to appear as front on as possible. I like to stand on as front on as possible as I can, because, you know, they always say that the judges are looking for things that you're trying to hide. So I never like to stand, because you do see some guys that will stand like real side on like this, and we know what they're doing. You know, we're all thinking the same thing. You know, like he's trying to hide his waist a bit, so. You know, so I don't want it to come across that way. But for me, it's just trying to create enough twist in the hips, but then bringing the shoulders round to, obviously we're creating that thickness across the top then we've got that V taper going down to the waist.
I see what the judges mean, because some pictures I see of you, your chest is a little bit more pronounced. It's up more, right? So you've got like this almost, you know, arc in your back, and your chest pops more. And then I've seen some shots where your shoulders kind of take over the chest, so they kind of they bow over a little bit, and it looks so beautiful when your chest is up. Just as a FYI, and of course I'm sure you guys are working on this, but when your chest is up, bro, it literally goes from shoulder all the way beautifully across to your chest. Because some would say, oh, he needs to develop more of that shelf. I mean, you're never going to have enough shelf, right? I've never seen anyone go, okay, I've got enough upper chest, but you have a really great pectoral fullness that you don't find in a lot of guys, especially the taller guys where you got to put more mass on. And you have that. So I think that that's one of the identifiers that you guys might want to lean in. Just my humble opinion, you guys might want to lean into. And then also with your back leg, the leg that is pointed, toes pointed, I could see where, like, just dissecting it in comparison to the other guys that hit the stage, bringing that maybe just a little bit more forward gives you more of that frame, because you have just such a very dominating physique, and it seems like, you know, if with small little things like your chest being up more, like your coach is saying, and or the judges, and then that leg coming forward just a little bit more, I think you just own the stage then. Like I could literally see you, like all eyes going to you because of such the huge physique and stature that you have. And then when you turn around, just keeping that chest up. When I see the transitions that you've done, sometimes you kind of go over and your head goes down a little bit as opposed to staying straight up. I could absolutely see, just again, the eyes being drawn to the whole physique, to the straight frame, to all the bubbliness as you transition and go into that back, face the curtain moment. And then, dude, I can't wait to see what you guys have been working on and stewing up there with the back. I want to see how this back has come up, because you have a very detailed back. It's got the striations, it's got the lines. You can see where all the muscle, even your lower lats, which a lot of people struggle with. You have really great lower lats, but just that width, and I can see what they were saying, like early on, the width and the density. It looks like you started to close that gap. You guys have been closing that gap, I would assume, the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's obviously been a main focus of ours, and I totally agree with what you're saying on the posing side of thing as well. And that's me. I'm guilty of that. Of when I'm on stage and I'm not being aware of things maybe going on around me. So in terms of keeping the chest up, for me, it's to keep eyes on the back of the room, because wherever your head goes, the rest of your body will follow. And I'm guilty of letting the shoulders sort of round over when I start looking down at the judges, because obviously my head drops and then the whole body follows with it. So what I need to do is keep the eye line up, look at the back of the room, and then that keeps the chest up then, rather than this happening. And with the back, you're exactly right. It's just being guilty of sort of allowing the shoulders to roll forward a bit too much, because then the head follows. Whereas if we keep the chest up, then obviously the back is just nice and contracted, and it shows all the details off in the way that we want them to show. But for the last a good 3 years, we've been hitting back hard just to bring that thickness and that detail through, and as much width as we can. We can only work with what we've got. I can only make my back so wide. And also one of the things that we played with, especially since they brought the weight cap in, is because I'd come down from open, I still carried a lot of mass in my legs. So we sort of made the decision of, well, look, we're not being judged on the legs. I mean, I suppose they say we are to a degree if we're looking at the overall silhouette. But I said, we're holding a lot of mass down here on the quads that we're so close to the cap, we could sacrifice some of this and put it on, up here where we're actually being judged upon. So that's what we've done as well. I mean, I've not really trained legs properly in about a year. But they're still there. They don't go anywhere. Yes, they've managed to reduce in size a little, but we had that trade-off between where do we want the tissue and where don't we, whilst still staying, on the cap line.
That's like every amateur and a lot of pros need to take note of what you just said, because those are true gems that you just said, from the posing and looking in the back room, that is so on point to, just where you want to allocate the muscle and how you streamline maybe your legs and sacrifice that for other parts of the physique. So that was really, really awesome. Thanks for sharing that with everybody.
I was going to say, and then you got me and Hart training legs a couple days a week. We're still getting no growth out of them.
I know what's going on.
That hurts. Tyler, I want to ask you an important question. Gaffer dissected your physique. I want to dissect your gym. Tell us about the gym. What was the inspiration behind it? Was it something that you always wanted to achieve? Tell us about the gym, man. Where is it?
Yeah, so again, it's in the Midlands in the UK. Again, it's about 10 minutes from where I live, but it's sort of 40 minutes from Birmingham, from where the Arnold's is going to be. Absolutely something that I wanted to do all my life. I was in a lucky position where I actually took over the gym it was my brother that previously had it. So he'd had it for about 8 years. He competed himself a couple of times, over the years as well. But I think he just got to the point where he wanted to move on to something else. But it was, again, from the time when he had the gym, it was very much that sort of underground, hardcore bodybuilding type thing. And over the years, I'd seen the transition in the way that the gyms had been changing. So I had a lot of ideas for what I wanted to do for the place. So yeah, I said to him, whatever you do not sell it to anyone else. I says, I'm taking that. I've got ideas for what I want to do. So closed it down. We got rid of all the equipment, everything. We did a total refurb. Everything went in brand new. Picked all the. I was very selfish. I picked all the bits of kit that I wanted to train with. So. All the pieces of back equipment that I knew I was going to need for the off season, and yeah, I'm 4 years in now into the gym. I love it, love owning it. We've got a great atmosphere, great culture down there. Great group of members. And I hate that cliche of saying, you never work a day in your life if it's something that you love and everything else. But every time I go down the gym, I don't feel like I'm working. I'm just in the gym. Which it's a place that we all love to be anyway. So it's it's a decision that I'm very, very glad about.
Boys, we got to take a trip.
Absolutely, I reckon I'm down for that.
I know Gaffa wants to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How much does the men physique have to pay to get in? Like, do you double up on the price for us? I mean, I'm joking.
Oh, I've got your pass.
There we go. Sign us up. We're going to Europe, boys.
There you go.
Hey, what with how some athletes are able to really make a great living in the industry, right? In our bodybuilding fitness industry, some struggle a bit, right? And they've got to keep additional jobs and so forth. Have you found that through your sponsorships and through the gym that you're able to sustain a positive life? I'm not sure. Do you have a spouse as well, or is it just you yourself?
No, yeah, I'm married. Yes, the two of us, but we run the gym together. So
nice.
So that's where she is now. She's at work. She's at the gym. So I'll go and take over this afternoon. We basically do a swap. But yeah, it's.
I love that.
I can see why some people struggle. And I've said over the years whilst being in the gym, and I see different guys come in who are competing or they're on prep or whatever, and they've had to do like a 10-hour shift, and then maybe they've got kids and they've got other stuff to do. And I sort of take a step back and look, and I think, yeah, do you know what? I'm actually in a really fortunate position where I'm in the environment that I need to be in all the time. I can train when I want. I can eat when I want. I can do my cardio when I want. I don't have all these restrictions. So in that sense, I'm extremely lucky that I can literally live and breathe the lifestyle and do what needs to be done for prep. And I do admire those guys that do have to work a 9 to 5, and they've got to take they've got to do the school run, and they've got other commitments and everything else, and they still manage to get it done. It's hats off to people like them. But I do feel lucky for the position that I've been able to be in over the last 4 or 5 years, and just immerse myself in what it is I need to do.
That's awesome.
Here's a question for you. This is gonna be a tricky one. Actually, probably won't be a tricky one.
Where do you get these questions, Phil?
No, I'm good, mate. I'm telling you, I'm on today. All right. Well, I know how much the UK guys love their kit, and you being a gym man, you being a gym owner, obviously you know about Prime, you know about Cybex, you know about Panada. If there was one bit of kit, or let's go one brand of kit, and one actual piece of machinery that you could use for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Ooh, do you know what? That's really hard, because as a gym owner, I always say to people, there is so many amazing brands out there, but no one does everything perfectly. I don't know. I like Atlantis. Atlantis makes some good kit, but I like some of the old school hammer strength stuff as well.
It's true.
But if I was going to choose one brand, I would probably go Atlantis. And I would go with their incline press.
Nice. We don't have much Atlantis in Australia, thinking about it. I know it's big in the States, and I think there's a couple of gyms in the UK.
Incline press is heavy too. It's not like, that the hammer strength incline press,
Never felt it. I've never felt it.
Yeah.
Surely there's a gym in Bali that's got it hard. It's got to be.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Well,
difficult question.
Did you
difficult
ever
question.
hear that? KIT? Have you ever heard KIT before?
I was about to say it. I was like, KIT, what is he saying?
Right.
And then I
I was
finally
like,
picked
where are you
up.
guys going with this?
What the hell's
has
KIT?
Over the seas.
You know what? At least we've
Jargon.
finally got someone on this show that understands my language, because Tyler, the amount of American slang words that I've needed to try to learn over the last couple of months has been ridiculous. I'm finally getting there, but to have someone that speaks my language is good.
That's awesome. No, dude. So you and your wife, is she a competitor also, or does she just like the gym environment and that sort of thing, or is it more like the financial side of things? She's more the business play, and that's why she's in the game. What kind of led her to get into the industry as well, and how did you guys wind up meeting?
So I mean, we've been married, I think 5 years this year. Been together 9, 10.
Congrats, yeah.
Thank you. The decision behind the whole gym thing was more about us developing a better sort of work lifestyle balance, because we both came from doing completely different jobs. I ran a different business before I had the gym. It was sort of heavily around real estate and things like that. Whereas she came from a job where she was doing shift work and, all this sort of stuff. And I said, why don't we, with the gym, create a better lifestyle for both of us where we can decide the hours that we want to work. You can work less. You don't have to be doing shifts and all this, crazy hours and everything else. So we got a couple of guys that work for us down the gym as well. So, we're not there all the time. And we just got to that sort of stage of life where it was like, we've put quite a lot of, years in working hard and everything else. Now we've got this business of our own, we've grown it, it's doing well for us. Now let's try and develop a lifestyle where we've got a bit more time for ourselves.
I love that. Hey, Tyler, speaking of lifestyle and just developing a healthier lifestyle, I recently obviously moved to Southeast Asia. My stress levels are down. My cortisol is down. I'm feeling amazing. When you are in prep and you start to experience some sort of stress, what do you do to calm yourself down to come back to base? What do you do?
Being honest, go and train completely.
All of us.
Yeah, it does. It completely resets. It totally shifts your mindset. I can be having a crappy day, in a bad mood, something stressed me out or whatever. I can go in there for an hour, bust out what I need to do, and just like that, I walk out of it thinking, yeah, I'm good now. Everything's fine. It's cool. Don't worry about it. There's nothing, So, I think my type of personality, I'm quite laid back anyway. So I try not to let things stress me too much. I'm not an if and a but guy. I'm the guy of we'll deal with it when it happens.
Same. We're on the same level with that, bro. Same level.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil.
All right, Tyler, I want to ask you this. I've been thinking about it all call, and I think now's the perfect time to ask you. A couple of weeks back, Arnold Classic US. You obviously saw the lineup, you saw the results, you saw how the guys look, etc. Brandon took it out. Brandon's not coming to this show. He's out. Who are you keeping your eyes on? And now obviously a lot of them are now coming to the UK, your home country. Who impressed you at that US show? Who are you keeping your eyes on? Yeah.
Look, I'm under, no disillusion of what the lineup is. This lineup in both Arnolds is a quality world-class lineup. I've got so much respect for every single guy that's standing up there, because they're there for a reason. We've all been selected for whatever reason, and we've qualified, under our own rights. I thought Brandon in the US was just crazy from the front. He was just so dialed in, so detailed that as soon as he came out and he sort of hit both hands on hips like that, it was just, your eyes were just drawn to him straight away. when I found out that he wasn't coming to the UK, I said, well, that's one place higher I'm going to finish. So, which is a shame, because obviously, you know, I've competed against him in the Olympia, but we didn't really compete against each other because there were so many of us. So it's a shame that he's not coming over, because in such a smaller class, it would have been nice to, you know, be able to stand next to him at some point. You can't ignore Vitor. You know, Vitor has just been so consistent over the years. And obviously Andre as well, Andre Dieu. You know, it's very hard to find him off at any point. But like I say, if I can get an opportunity to stand next to those guys and expose them in any way that I can, then trust me, I will try.
As a fellow tall guy, Tyler, I am hoping you do that. I'm rooting for that all the way. I'm tired of all these short kings thinking they own men's physique. I'm done with it. Done.
You hear this coming out, Phil? You hear this talk coming out from our green giant,
me and Tyler,
brown giant over here?
I hear it. Is there slang coming out? I can hear the slang. I'm not hearing past the slang.
He's trying to tell us that, you know, you're under 6 feet.
That's right, exactly right.
You know, like you guys might not want to be on the stage with me.
I know. See, be careful, Hart. We're coming for you.
Hey, over 6 feet gang, you know, me and Tyler versus you guys, we're all good. I got Tyler on my side. We're good.
I'm not rocking up.
That was why, you know, years back when like Raymond Edmonds won it, I was like, yes, they've given it to a tall guy. And then when Erin won it as well, I was like, yes, a tall guy. I was like,
changing the guard.
Yeah. Seriously. Hey, what I wanted to find out is you went through some challenges along this journey, and saw that you had a kidney transplant.
Yeah, that's right. So in 2015, I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, something that they didn't know how long it had been going on for. But they picked up on it in 2015, monitored it for, 2-3 years, until I got to a point in it was late 2017. I entered end stage renal failure. And then in the March, and do you know what, actually, it was March the 28th, which ironically is going to be the day of the Arnolds. March the 28th in 2018, I had a kidney transplant. So on the day of the Arnolds, it will be my 8th anniversary.
Wow. Damn. Dude, what was that experience like, just going through that, and the changes in the things that you thought you'd have to do with your life different than what you were doing previously? And do you know how you wound up having the kidney issues? Was it, some, like everyone always points to gear? Was it gear? Was it more like just genetics? What kind of did it?
I think, to be honest, looking back, it was probably a combination of everything in the lifestyle of being an open heavyweight. Because back then I would go up to 300 pounds in the off season. And I think what primarily caused the damage was extended periods of very high blood pressure that was uncontrolled. High blood pressure is the number one cause of kidney damage. If you don't pay attention to it and it's there in the background for a long time, it's going to start chipping away at those kidneys, and it will scar them, it will damage them. Kidneys are one of those things that they won't regenerate. Once they are damaged to a point, there's no real going back from it. So obviously, once I found out in 2015, that was when I stopped competing. That was my last time that I stood on stage as a open heavyweight. So I took obviously 4 years away from the stage. When someone tells you that you need an organ transplant and a major operation like that, it's a massive wake up call. Because you realize that your life isn't ever going to be the same again. Not necessarily in, a major way. I think, to begin with, when you first get the news, you think it's going to be this massive black cloud hanging over your head for the rest of your life. But I think when I had the transplant done and I started to get better again, I didn't want it to define me. So that's why I wanted to get back in the gym and get fit again and everything else. And my body just started responding really well. And that was why I then sort of took the route of men's physique, because for me, it wasn't any more of what division do I want to do. It was what division will I fit into best whilst taking my health into consideration. So I knew that I could sort of slide into men's physique. I didn't necessarily have to put on any more mass because it was, I had lost weight from the open days and after the surgery and everything else. But I didn't necessarily have to grow into the division anymore. So it was more a case of just refining things and then controlling things from a health point of view. So obviously, the PED approach nowadays is much, much lower. I mean, like seriously low. I will guarantee you will find figure girls that would take more than I do. And just saying. But
yeah, I believe that.
But it was also, working around the diet, not being too aggressive on the protein, keeping an eye on blood pressure, everything else. But it's still something that I'm going to have to live with, for the rest of my life. I have to take anti-rejection medication every 12 hours. That's something that I will have to do forever. And when I see stories, like I've seen it come up this morning, because I think Lee Haney has reached out because he needs a living donor, doesn't he? Because he needs a kidney transplant. When I read things like that, then obviously that really sort of hits home with me because I know what he's going through, and it is a scary time. It's a scary time because you don't know what the future holds. You don't know if someone's going to step up or what it might be. So it definitely challenged me along the years, and it still does to a degree now, because everything, we have to make sure that everything is bang on all the time, just to make sure that my health is always the priority. And if that's all good, then I can carry on doing what I'm doing.
That's awesome. And shout out to Lee Haney also. I agree. We were fortunate enough to see him at the Arnold Classic, and he's still walking around and looking amazing. So, kudos to Lee Haney. See him soon.
Yeah. No, that's crazy, man, because I mean, does a kidney, I mean, when I think about preps and I think about bodybuilding, obviously, water intake and kidney and all that sort of stuff plays a massive part in regards to peaking someone correctly. How do you find peaking? Has it caused any issues with the kidney? Has it caused any issues with you peaking? Because I mean, I've seen you every time I see you, you're thick skin shredded, inside and out. So
there goes our monetization. I'm sure.
Oh.
I'm just playing.
I was gonna say, who put the Aussie on the microphone? That's all we do. We swear. But have you found that it affects you with your peak and all that sort of stuff, or hasn't it had any issues at all?
No, not really. And again, this is where Callum came in, because when we very first started working together, that was the conversation that we needed to have. That, look, I'm not prepared to do anything that will compromise the kidney and the health of the kidney, because, I've already had one chance. I can't mess up the second one. So that always had to be a priority. And we developed a way of peaking without making any major drastic changes. So even going into show day, before I even step on stage, I will most likely take on a couple of liters of water, even that day. Water's not something that we cut. I think the approach to water cutting has changed a lot over the years as well anyway. So what we like to do is keep everything as consistent as possible. And if I can look the way that I look, 2 weeks out, a week out, whatever, then why change it in the last week? Because drastic changes like that cause effects in your body that you may not be good. There could be negative effects involved there in internally, but also in the look as well. So it's just about keeping everything consistent all the way through. So if I'm taking on 4 or 5 liters a day, that's what we'll do this week as well.
Do you guys use any diuretics, like quarter or half a pill of diuretic the day of the show or anything, or do you stay away from that?
No, nothing whatsoever. Since I've had my transplant, I've never touched a diuretic.
I didn't think so. Nice.
Yeah, no, that's one thing I never understood. I mean, obviously, as the years go on and you kind of learn more about the peaking process and stuff, it's almost like exactly what you said. Like if you look damn near good 2 weeks out? Why are you all of a sudden changing everything? You're adding water, you're cutting water, you're manipulating sodium, all that sort of stuff. It never made any real sense to me. And I think that's something that I learned off the guys at Pro Coach as well. Like, I was working with Ross back then, and Ross was, he is a knowledgeable guy as well. Like, he knows his stuff when it comes to peaking and all that sort of manipulation side of things. And it was the same. It was just increase, your carbohydrates a little bit, monitor it, bump it up the day after, monitor it again. And like I said, I'm so glad that there's a lot more education around the whole bodybuilding process these days. And you don't need diuretics. You can just alter your water intake and alter your food, and you'll get the same sort of result. So I love hearing that, man. And me being a coach.
You say that until you see Brandon standing back there, and then you go, what can I take right now to get closer to that?
How much water do I need to cut to match him?
Right.
Tyler, I want to ask you, man. I mean, obviously the UK shows this weekend. You're excited for it. You're ready to rock and roll. I know last season you had a whole heap of shows planned out, but you were able to submit your qualification after the one. Have you taken the same approach? Have you got a few shows lined up after the UK show?
Do you know what? I actually don't. I've not got anything planned at the minute. And the only reason being was because this was kind of unexpected for me, because I applied for both. I saw the list come out for the US Arnolds, and I was like, oh, okay. Didn't make that one. I mean, I didn't expect to. I didn't have any expectations of making either. So, and I sort of knew deep down that my body wasn't quite ready for it. So this one, getting the invite for this one is just, it's a massive privilege for a start. But for me, it's just, it's a great opportunity to show my physique in front of a home crowd, but also in a smaller field as well. Because obviously, we all know the Olympia last year. It was crazy, 70 athletes. It's got to be very hard for the judges to look at that many people, because not everybody's getting a fair look. Not when there's 70 guys on stage. It's just impossible. So this time round, with, I think, what is this, 13 of us? There's nowhere to go with 13. We are going to get looked at. So for me, it was more a case of, let's see where we land in this one, see what feedback we get, and then we can move from there. But at the minute, no, after this, I've got no commitments at the moment. But, I mean, I'll be in shape, so we'll see.
You never know what could happen, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Tyler, my last question for you is really to the fans and to people coming up right now. What's some advice that you would give to the fans, regard like those amateurs who or people first entering bodybuilding and then looking to eventually turn pro? What's some sound advice that you'd like to give them in terms of, maybe just what they should think about or keep in the forefront or the back of their mind even? What do you think?
Yeah, I've always sort of thought about this a lot, and it's the same advice that I give to anyone coming through is don't rush the process. There's so many stages to this. From being a first timer at an amateur show to then going through to then maybe winning your weight division. Then you want to win, maybe a national and things like that. Come back and win a national 2-3 times, be a British champion, get your name solidified on a national level. We see it all the time. These guys that are amateurs, and it's, road to pro and everything else. And it's like, you've done 2 shows, let's embrace every single level of this all the way through, because if you just go to, don't get me wrong, you get some crazily genetically gifted guys out there who do deserve to sort of fast track all the way to the top, because that's where they belong. But 99% of us, we've got to work our way through the ranks. And when you do that, you need to enjoy every stage that you go through, because we've seen it with so many people. They can go from amateur, do a few shows, to pro straight away, career over. Because it's such a massive jump that, you go from winning a couple of shows to nothing, and then that's it. They're done, because they can't cope with the massive jump. So enjoy winning. Enjoy winning as an amateur. Like I say, become a national champion, whatever. And then when you feel the time is ready, then make that push for the pro. But then be prepared for what's to come, because you're stepping into a whole new Shark Tank, because you're stepping into a massive pool of guys worldwide who are the very best at what they do, and they're not messing. So, yeah, the main point I try to get people to take away is just enjoy it. Don't rush it. If it's meant to be, your time will come, but just enjoy every stage along the way.
Amen to that. Sound
That's great advice.
Yeah.
I think that was the perfect way to finish this episode, boys. What do you reckon?
That was solid.
Yeah. Last thing I just want to say, not really a question. Tyler, it's been a pleasure to connect with you. And, I don't know what it is. When I get to connect and conversate with a guy that I used to only talk about visually online, and now that I've met you, I've connected with you, I know your story, we've had a laugh, I've heard some of your mental battles, like all that stuff. I don't know what it is, but it makes it a lot more exciting to talk about you moving forward forever. And then the relationship just continues to build. I'm sure we'll see you in person at some point this year. So I'm just really thankful, brother, you chose to take the time to come on the show. I know Phil and Aleem, we're going to talk about this and rave about this for the next week or so. And we can't wait to, put out this content to let the world, the masses, I don't know how many millions last week, Aleem, to let them know who you are, brother. That's the most important part. People see your physique, all day long, week after week.
5 million views last month, and we do well over 1 million views a week. So you're going to touch a lot of people with a lot of the things that you just said, yes, my friend. Like literally,
100%.
Brother, you're going to impact people, especially the people who need to hear about, going into a prep the right way, the battles that you've had with your kidney and why. I think you're going to wind up saving a lot of people and helping them out a tremendous amount. So thank you again for sharing your journey and sharing, what you've had to endure and lessons that you've learned. This has been awesome. And I think you're very inspiring to people who, want to get into the game and also figure out, is there a way to make money and, just sustain myself, and you opening the gym and, doing it with your wife. It's so impressive, man. I got to give you guys a lot of props and kudos because it's difficult to work with family and, especially someone who you care about. It's like it can butt heads. So it's great that you guys are figuring all that out. That's awesome, dude.
Oh, thank you, guys. The three of you, all guys that I've followed and admire the work that you do within the industry. The promotion or the coverage that you give us, all of us guys, it doesn't go unnoticed. I do really appreciate it, and we all do, and I appreciate you for having me on. Thank you very, very much. And I'm looking forward to Saturday now.
Crush it, brother.
That's it. Absolutely smash it. We're going to be watching it.
Baby.
We're going to be live streaming it, so I can't wait to talk about you, Tyler. I cannot wait. It's going to hit different.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot to say about you. It's going to be fun.
Well, pressure's on now.
That's it. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
So much, Tyler.